over Denver. Mahomes, yet another 300-yard passing game with no turnovers. Elsewhere, Kirk Cousins kept the Vikings in the playoff hunt. 3 touchdowns, helped erase a double-digit deficit before Dan Bailey kicked a game-winning field goal in overtime. The Vikings are back to 500. And then there's Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears. 10-point lead late in the fourth quarter. A fumble leading to a pair of Lions touchdowns, and the Bears lose again. Their 6th straight defeat after starting the season 5-1. And while that was a conversation that was focused on quarterbacks, Rex, I know that's not where your mind goes, because the Bears and that defense had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. What?
Yeah, no, if you're the real deal, then that game's over. Regardless of the stupid play by the quarterback, Trubisky, and the play call, the questionable play call at that situation. If you're that team, look, Ryan Clark and I have been on those teams. Game's over, dude. Yeah. It's flat out over. If we're going to show you how good we are, how great we are. All right. Instead, that team right there gave up 450 yards to the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're really that good. Forget about you wanted your own identity. You never liked the 85 Bears. Well, guess what? You can't hold their jock strap. And I'm sick and tired of saying that you're a good defense, most talented defense. You dang sure don't play that way.
Yeah, RC, look, this is a team that a few weeks ago, I remember we were talking about, is the defense looking side-eyed at the offense because they're struggling so much. And again, they're in position to win the game.
I'm getting so sick and tired of you guys talking out of both sides of your mouth. What do we always say? We want a team to be together. We want total chemistry. We want complementary football. Not a Bears playing complementary football. The offense sucked. Defense sucked too. There you go. Isn't this what we want? Isn't this why Matt Nagy was brought to Chicago so the offense and the defense would be on the same level? Well, now you have it. And then y'all get it, and y'all want to be mad. Right? This defense is not what it used to be. It's not what it even started this season as being. It's not what we saw on Thursday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, you know, the question was asked early on in the season, does this eventually wear on the Chicago Bears defense? That's an excuse. Because when you're on the field, it's those 11 players that are coached to play defense and that are coached to stop people. And if you had the perfect chance to get your team back into it, to get your team back into the race, to give Mitchell Trubisky, Matt Nagy, the people of Chicago some hope that there was a way that you guys could sliver into the playoffs. And nope, you let Matt Stafford and their new coach pull a win when they were down by 10. And that's on you. That's all about this defense not being good enough.
That's really well said. So, Dan, now what? And now where do they turn in Chicago?
Well, the Chicago turns to 2021. And I've said this, that they're going to all lose their jobs. One, because the drafting of Mitchell Trubisky, and then two, the lack of development of Mitchell Trubisky. That's the big damning factor. The general manager drafted him, okay, and then the head coach was brought in to develop him. Neither of those things have happened. Neither of those things have panned out. This was a championship-level defense 6 weeks ago. I mean, 6 weeks ago, this was a championship-level defense. The Chicago Bears are like someone on their team has the stomach bug. You know, like I got 4 kids. When one of my kids get the stomach bug, I'm like, oh, man, now I'm going to get it. And for like 3 weeks, I'm sitting there going like, okay, here it comes. And I start doing everything stupidly. That's what the Bears have decided to become right now. Like their play calling's not good. Their defense can't get a stop. Their offensive line's bad. They don't got a good run game. Allen Robinson's stepping out of bounds a yard short of the first down marker when he's a really good play. It's spread throughout their whole organization. They will reboot in 2021.
It's well put, and it does. It makes you want to run to the bathroom. So I think that is a perfectly good way to describe the experience of watching them. As we continue, let's get up and go. Some other news around the sports world. Zion Williamson says he will head into this season with, quote, no restrictions. Following an interrupted rookie campaign, his debut year was disrupted due to a variety of injuries and a forced quarantine after leaving the Orlando bubble in July, but he says no minutes restrictions this year. Meanwhile, hot on the heels of Tyson versus Jones, are you ready for Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul? They're getting in the ring for an exhibition match on February 20th. They both announced the fight on Instagram yesterday. Elsewhere, #1 Gonzaga college basketball pausing all team activities due to COVID protocols 1 day after 2 positive tests within the basketball program from one player and another member of the traveling party led to a postponement of their matchup with #2 Baylor. We continue. So on this, the morning after he legitimately gets benched, what is the first thing you want to say?
Carson Wentz is broken. And Jalen Hurts needs to be their starting quarterback next week. I mean, the confidence doesn't come from always being right. Confidence comes from not fearing being wrong. And right now, he just plays fearful football. He's fearful of making the wrong decision. He's fearful of missing throws. He's fearful of making the mistake. That's not his style of football. And this is a quarterback that used to play with a freedom, a confidence, a belief that he was one of the best players on the field. Now, he has no confidence in his game. He has no confidence in the people that he's doing things with. Now, listen, they gave him the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of football, and then within the same year, they drafted a quarterback in the second round. There's a seed of doubt from my general manager. And then in a game where I'm not playing well enough, yesterday, Doug Peterson, my head coach, benches me for that quarterback. There's another seed of doubt. But I have two problems with Carson Wentz right now. One, with the lack of communication with the head coach, saying I didn't really know the plan. That's either on the head coach to not have the confirmation in that conversation, or the quarterback to go, what's the deal? You know, the quarterback to go and have that conversation. Then two, we didn't play this sound, but he said this: a lot of those things are out of my control. Carson, I've had your back for a long time. That's a bunch of baloney. This is in your control.
Boy, you almost cussed, Dan? Dan, did you almost cuss?
You see, I call myself so. That's how I deal with my kids sometimes. That's it's
but I do like the thought. Go ahead, keep going, because what about it don't you like him saying that?
Because it is in your control. You control what you do with the football. You control how you lead. You control how you handle things. And in your fifth year in the NFL, you should have the emotional security and the emotional confidence to not care what other people are saying and the decisions that are made around you. And you should be able to have those blinders on, because you can't say it's out of my control. Because at the end of the day, I remember Gary Kubiak saying to me this very clearly. He said to me one day, everything is in your control when it comes to what happens in this organization as the starting quarterback. And so you can't have your play be what it is and then go, some things are out of my control.
Dan, you know what happened with Carson Wentz? You just talked about things being in Carson Wentz's control. You know what else was in his control? The way that he handled himself after that game. Yeah. At what point, at least during that cut, did we hear Carson Wentz say, you know what, I just wasn't playing well enough? Right. Or you know what, coach had to make a decision because of the way I was playing, or because my play put us in this position. You know, the ownership we always look for quarterbacks to have. Carson Wentz doesn't have that. And listen, he had backed Doug Peterson into a corner like Nate Robinson fighting Jake Paul. He had to come out swinging. Sometimes you come out swinging, you get put to sleep. Sometimes you win the fight. But that's where Doug Peterson was. And so he puts Jalen Hurts in the game, and he makes the right decision. And Jalen Hurts lights a fire under this team. And they at least look like a team that can move the football and score points. And so now Doug Peterson, going into the next week, has no choice. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback of this team. Carson Wentz is the backup. There should be no rotation. There should be no alternating. And that's the way it should be for 4 quarters next week, as long as Jalen Hurts is healthy. And then you make a decision after that game. But Carson Wentz played himself out of this position. Whether he's broken or not, he had the keys to fix it, and he did not. Now it's time to move on for him, at least for a week.
And by the way, they play the Saints next week, who right now may have the best defense in the sport. But Rex, here's what I find myself thinking about. It is just indisputable that Carson Wentz is a more talented quarterback than Nick Foles. But that team played better around Foles. You said this morning you don't think Jalen Hurts has the NFL skill set. But that team clearly, in a tiny little sample size, played better around him than it did about Wentz. What do those things tell us about Wentz?
Yeah, you know, I 100% agree with you on that. And it tells you that, number one, it's not just about the athleticism, that athletic ability and skill set. It's about you. And when he's sitting back there, I look at it this way. He's wanting an explanation. You don't have to get an explanation. You don't deserve. Here's your explanation. You are playing like crap. That's your explanation. And when we talk about, about he's lost confidence. Yeah, and rightfully so. He's got no confidence in his offensive line, doesn't have confidence in his receivers, doesn't have confidence in the play calling, and he shouldn't have confidence in how he's playing. But to me, it's all about the locker room. We all saw it. When Jalen Hurts went in the game, they know he might not be, whoever, Randall Cunningham back there. But I'll say this. They believed in it. They knew it was going to be, at least we got a better chance. And that's how the team played. The whole team picked it up. Special teams, defense, everybody picked it up. They have no choice. Jalen Hurts has to be the quarterback now.
That's 3 for 3. We all of this group here today believes Jalen Hurts should be their quarterback next week. Can we take one moment on Aaron Rodgers, who again in that game became the fastest quarterback ever to 400 touchdown passes?